Greetings, brethren. It's your bibbity bip bop bum boy, the donkey, and we're having another beer on another day. Although for me, it is not another day. It's like the fourth, fifth. I had a lot of beers today. Listen, I just spent a couple of days in the mountains because I needed to get away from things. And I'm just back home, so beer tastes really nice after a couple of days of just water and cans of soup. So, yeah, we're back home. And I just felt like doing another video. So bear with me, please. This video, I don't need to be sober for, because I have had this a bajillion times before. It is easily one of my favorites. It is not a German beer. It is in fact it's my favorite foreign beer, I think. Yeah. It's Kilkenny Irish Red Ale. So Irish people, I'm sure, are going to be upset that my favorite Irish beer isn't Guinness, but it's not. I think Guinness is pretty good, but for me, it has to be Kilkenny. Kilkenny is just so friggin' good. Let's have a pour. All I have is a proper pint glass, so these 500ml bottles, it's not gonna fill up a pint glass, but we're gonna go for it anyway. Kilkenny is a beer that I've had so many times. There was a time in my life when I spent a lot of years, and I'm actually kind of proud of pouring this one. This looks pretty good. There was a few years in my life where I really, really enjoyed going to Ireland. I would rent this little cabin on the west coast and just stay there for, I don't know, a couple of weeks usually, and yeah, just get away from things. Which, funnily enough, I never really picked up on how much I really enjoyed that, which is weird. I don't know why I didn't. But yeah, I really enjoyed being away from things and just being out in the Irish wilds. So, yeah, and Kilkenny is the beer that I would always seek out. If a pub had this, that pub had me. And at home, in where I live, we used to have two Irish pubs. One of them had to close for the pandemic. I think they just reopened. I haven't checked it out yet. I saw a message saying that they reopened. I don't know if they actually have. I will have to check it out. And this is what I order there. Every time I go there, it's a pint of Kilkenny, because I just love it that much. Cheers. It's so good. So, what is Kilkenny like? If you're an ale drinker, this will be a milder ale. You know, if you like your brown ales, for example, your Newcastle brown, things like that. This is a bit more on the mild side of things, but it has that same sort of ale flavor profile. It's usually not as smoky as brown ales. I'm sorry, that's there's a lot of gas happening right now. But it is still it still has that smokiness over like a lager beer. It The thing I most enjoy about Kilkenny over other ales in general is that it is a really good drinking beer. It doesn't have any of those annoying qualities that ales sometimes have. So I don't hate ales. I know there are a lot of Germans that really dislike ales and think that ales are inferior to German beers. I'm not one of those people. I think there are plenty of ales that have their own sort of character and they're interesting and they have their own sort of thing going on. But with a lot of ales, I will agree with other Germans that they have characteristics that make them not good for repeated drinking. So if you want to drink more than 1 pint of a regular ale, they often have a thing going on that doesn't make them quite as pleasant. Usually it is a sort of acidity or a kind of a lingering acrid taste that kind of makes them just annoying to have more of, especially if you drink a lot of them really quickly. If you chug them, they often have characteristics that make them just annoying. Sometimes it's also the sweetness. Some ales are really sweet, and sometimes that sweetness becomes sort of a disadvantage where it just you keep drinking them and you feel like you're chugging a cola, right? And it becomes annoying and becomes something that gets in the way. Whereas with Kilkenny, that's just not the case. It's just a gentle, soft beer that's really easy to drink. For me, this is the perfect pub beer. If I'm at a pub and I have, company, hopefully I'm not alone at the pub, although sometimes I'm sure I am. But if I'm not alone, then Kilkenny is the perfect beer. It's just so nice, so easily drinkable, and there's nothing about it that really offends you. And some will say that that's because it's just kind of generic. Sure, I will gladly admit to that. When it comes to ales, Kilkenny is sort of middle of the road. It doesn't really go in any direction that tries to offend someone or that tries to really entice someone. But that to me, in this specific case, whereas usually I say generic is bad, in this case I kind of like that because I think ales in general are very specific to particular people. You'll meet someone who really likes Newcastle Brown. You'll meet someone who really likes, I don't know, Imperial Red from whatever specific brand, right? But it'll always be a sort of a specific person's beer. Whereas Kilkenny is just a nice drinking beer. And that's so rare as an ale. Ales are so specific that they don't really serve that particular customer. They don't really, it's very rare for an ale to be a beer where I want to order 3 pints of it in a night. And I'm okay with that. Usually when it comes to Newcastle Brown, for example, I kind of just want one of them. But with Kilkenny, I'm totally fine to have a couple of them. And I'll be fine, I'll be okay, because it's only 4.2%. That's not that much. That's all right. That's something you can have a couple of and be okay. I mean, look at me. I've had, I think, 4 already tonight, and I'm having a Kilkenny just because it's enjoyable. And the other thing I really like about Kilkenny is ales in general have that thing where they're super, 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 super low carbonated, and the carburation that exists evaporates immediately. They're stale immediately, pretty much, especially when they're drafted. Even Kilkenny, when drafted, loses its carburation a bit quicker than when it comes from the bottle. But despite that, Kilkenny still carries that on a little bit more. It carries it along. It's enjoyable for longer. At least for me. When it comes to foreign beers, they are so different from how German, breweries brew their beers that finding something that is so gentle and so that doesn't pull into any of the areas that German beers just don't touch, like sweetness and acidity. It's so refreshing, and it's really nice, and so Kilkenny is my safety vest. I just really enjoy having this beer, and there's also a lot of really good memories tied up for me in this beer of going to our local Irish pubs, which I have always adored, because looking back on it, on my sort of history of how I've been and how I've grown, I've always kind of not been too at home in my own town. I've always kind of been a foreigner here. It's taken me a long time to really figure that out, that I don't really belong. But being a foreigner in my own town, I've really enjoyed going to those Irish pubs. Those, because they felt like foreigner experiences, if that makes any sense. So, and Kilkenny was always part of that. So it just has a really, really specific place in my heart from all my Irish travels and my going to Irish pubs. And, even when traveling through Germany and seeing other Irish pubs, because for some reason we have Irish pubs in like every city. It's just a thing here. And Kilkenny is always one of the beers that they have. And it just, despite me being a German and not having this as my local beer, it's always felt like home. So how can I not enjoy it? There's just something to it that really makes me happy. And comparing it to other beers that I've had, there is more acidity going on. There's less of there's definitely a lot less of bitterness compared to German beers. It's a little savory, but it tends a little bit more toward acidity and being a fresh kind of experience. It's a little smoky, but not as much as other ales. And it's just very sort of pleasant and kind of baseline. Now, I'm going to give this a much, much higher rating, of course, than I would any other sort of more generic beer. It is kind of generic. I'll warn you ahead of time. So if I was objective, I probably only would give this... It would be below a 5, but I'm not even gonna go there. I don't want to. For me personally, it's such a good beer. I enjoy this so much. There are so many memories attached. There's so many feelings attached to it that I can't give this an objective rating. I just can't. For me, this is the best Irish beer. It is the best international beer for me. So this is always going to get an 8 out of 10. But this is a very personal rating. I just want to be clear. If you have this, and you have it on my 8 rating, 8 of 10 rating, you might be disappointed. But for me, there's so much attached to this beer. I can't rate it badly. I just can't. So Kilkenny, 8 out of 10. It is one of my favorites. I just love this beer. It's so delicious to me personally. And yeah, I just enjoy it so much. So cheers. I hope you enjoyed this video. I wish you all a wonderful evening. And please join me on another day for another beer. I guarantee you next time I will be not as buzzed because I won't have 4 beers before this one. And yeah, come and join me again to see what I have to say. I bought another beer.